On August 9, 2018, these young boys boarded a school bus for what was meant to be a day-long field trip filled with excitement. But that day of fun soon turned into a day of horror and tragedy. A Saudi Arabian-led military coalition reportedly dropped a 500-pound laser-guided bomb on the bus, killing at least 40 children, 11 bystanders, and injuring 79 other people. The horrific images that emerged from the scene of the attack not only drew the world's attention to this tragedy, but also to the international partnerships that are supporting Saudi Arabia's relentless bombardment of its neighbor to the south, especially after subsequent reporting revealed that the bomb used in the attack might have been supplied by the United States. I'm Judah with Now This World, and in this episode, we're going to look into this horrific attack and the role that the US continues to play in Yemen. The conflict in the country has created what the United Nations has called the worst humanitarian crisis in the world today.
We are here afraid in Yemen because they are targeting bridges, they are targeting schools, they are targeting roads, so you are not safe.
Conservative estimates say this war has resulted in the deaths of at least 5,000 civilians, created a famine in the country that claimed the lives of about 50,000 people, and pushed 8.4 million Yemenis to the brink of starvation. It also sparked a cholera epidemic that affected more than 1 million people. And the United States has supported the Saudi Arabian-led military campaign since March 2015. This recent conflict began with Yemen's civil war, which launched out of the instability that followed a popular uprising in 2011. That uprising eventually led to the removal of Yemen's long-serving authoritarian leader, Ali Abdullah Saleh. He eventually ceded power, handing over the presidency to his deputy, Abdurabu Mansur Hadi. But he was never able to fully assert his authority in the divided country that was dealing with an armed rebellion by a Shiite Iranian-backed group called the Houthis. By September 2014, that group gained control of large parts of Yemen, including its capital, Sana'a. And by March 2015, Hadi fled to Saudi Arabia, where he's been ever since. And that is when the war got even worse. A Saudi Arabian and United Arab Emirates-led military coalition began an airstrike campaign against Houthi targets in the country. Enter the United States and other Western powers. The US sells weapons to Saudi Arabia, provides logistical support in the war, and even refuels coalition fighter jets during flight. To put it all very simply, the Saudi coalition is dropping American-made bombs from planes refueled by American soldiers, which kill innocent civilians, including children. And while this might come as a surprise for some, it shouldn't. That's because globally, the US exports more than a third of all major weapons. And the biggest beneficiary? You guessed it, Saudi Arabia. The US supplies more than 60% of Saudi Arabia's arms imports, billions of dollars worth of weapons including cluster bombs and anti-tank missiles, as well as armored vehicles, tanks, attack aircrafts, and other equipment. Experts say that though sales of equipment are easy to track, the Pentagon doesn't publish when the arms have been delivered or how they've been used. They've also claimed numerous times that US officials don't track or investigate airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition. But in recent months, exclusive reporting from outlets like The Intercept or New York Times have challenged that, indicating that officials might know more than they say they do, and might be more directly involved in Yemen than they say they are. Some of these weapons are reported to have ended up in the hands of ISIS and Al-Qaeda militants. To complicate things even further, according to recent AP reports, the US has conflicting interests on the peninsula, which include both counterterrorism efforts to eliminate Al-Qaeda and simultaneously drive out the Houthis, a fight Al-Qaeda has joined. US weapons support ramped up under the Obama administration, under which, according to the Center for International Policy calculations, more than $115 billion in military sales were offered to Saudi Arabia from 2009 to 2016. Support for Saudi and the UAE further expanded under the Trump administration, with the State Department approving billions of dollars in arms sales. President Trump has also met with Saudi King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on several occasions. His first overseas trip as president, in fact, was to Riyadh. The Trump administration has argued that selling precision-guided munitions could result in fewer civilian deaths, because the targeting is more precise. But experts we've spoken to say that's not the case.
All that argument about helping them be more careful is nonsense. And we've seen that by the increase in civilian casualties and the kinds of targets like school buses and weddings and so forth that have been hit. From my point of view, when you're hitting those kinds of civilian targets repeatedly, to me that looks like a war crime.
So what actions, if any, are US lawmakers taking? Senator Elizabeth Warren recently wrote a letter to the US Central Command, asking for answers about an intelligence report uncovered by The Intercept that appears to contradict the Pentagon's reported lack of involvement in the Saudi-led airstrikes.
I think the Pentagon's well aware that U.S. bombs are being used to hit civilian targets. This fiction that they were putting forward that we don't track those things, first of all, is unconscionable. I mean, if you're selling the weapons, you should try to track how they're used. Second of all, as Senator Warren suggests, it doesn't square with the truth.
Earlier, in March 2018, a group of senators led a bipartisan effort to pass a resolution ending the U.S. involvement in the war. The resolution was tabled, but it wasn't the first time members of Congress tried to pass legislation to get out of Yemen, and it certainly won't be the last.
So the responsibility is clearly on our shoulders, the shoulders of the companies, of our government, and citizens of the United States have a responsibility to push their government to stop enabling these kinds of crimes.
Experts say this humanitarian crisis in Yemen will likely worsen as the Saudi-led coalition ramps up its efforts to take over the key port city of Hodeidah, where 70% of all humanitarian aid enters Yemen. So, should the US stop supporting Saudi Arabia in this fight? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching Now This World.